Humanity discovered that its entire high-tech civilization was built on fragments of eco-alien seed tech, and the cosmic harps returned demanding the stolen pieces back. With only 7 days to choose, the world faced a stark dilemma: keep the plundered power at the risk of annihilation, or voluntarily dismantle everything and share the knowledge transparently. The concept of balance: 1. An open exchange of technology under the artifact's constant ethical audit. While power-hungry factions like the Peregrine Syndicate were stopped by a resonance chorus carried through echo-touch children. Decades later, humans cultivate orbital gardens, guide newer colonies through mirror missions, and accept that the test of maturity never truly ends. The alien gardeners merely listen from afar while Earth keeps learning to choose forest over poison. Stay tuned to see how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. The first sign that Earth had outgrown its own skin was not a cataclysmic boom or a flash across the heavens. It was a sound too soft for ears, a sub-hertz resonance rolling through granite and groundwater alike. Seismologists in Reykjavik logged it as a quiet thunder, but the algorithm red-flagged the pattern: perfectly regular, perfectly global, every 12 minutes, 6 seconds. Within 24 hours, ports reported compass drift of half a degree. Pilots blamed solar storms, traders cursed glitching autopilots, and the stock market shrugged. The world had grown casual around anomalies. Cities balanced on smart gyros that realigned bridges against earthquakes, and infants wore diapers with antiviral circuits woven into cellulose. People assumed someone somewhere had coded a patch before breakfast. But the resonance returned every dawn, louder by fractions, until it rose above sea-level frequencies and city pigeons began colliding with glass at bizarre angles. When the first flock crashed into the mirrored facade of K2X Biobank in Nairobi, the security cameras captured a ripple in the sky behind them, like a curtain flicked by an invisible hand. 32 minutes later, orbit-rise radars across every hemisphere went blind. Not fried, just abruptly blank, as though the sky had gone opaque. Tracking stations from Canberra to Calgary fired up thermal nets, but the nets fed back pure white noise. Then, sunset over the Pacific, a shape appeared, a vertical line of incandescent amber plunging from mesosphere to stratosphere in absolute silence. It wasn't a meteor, it decelerated. It wasn't a shuttle, it lacked heat bloom. It was simply a line, widening as it fell, until midnight coastal surfers along Chile's Atacama shore saw it splay into a lattice of concentric rings, each rotating counter to the next. News feeds dubbed it the HARP. Governments convened. NORAD tried to send a drone. The drone's pitot tube liquefied mid-air, electronics unharmed but readings nonsense. ESA attempted a laser range find. The beam refracted into a spiral and never returned. By dawn day 2, 6 more HARPs had penetrated atmosphere. One sank into Siberian tundra, another speared the Sahara, 2 hovered kilometers above the Amazon like lanterns tethered to nothing. UN Security Council declared an extraordinary session. Delegates arrived shell-shocked but eager for the usual theater. They expected saber-rattling about national sovereignty and covert tech. What they got was a message delivered through children. At 9:03 Universal Time Coordinated, every human under the age of 8 stopped mid-motion. Classrooms, playgrounds, hospital cribs, eyes dilated, irises blooming with floating glyphs no camera could resolve. In unison, across 200 languages, they spoke one sentence: "We have come to collect our echo." Silence followed. No seizures, no collapse. Children blinked, cried, or laughed, unaware they'd been used as transmitters. Dr. Yarachin, a quantum linguist previously funded to debunk crop circle hoaxes, was pulled from a basement lab in Uppsala and flown to New York. She replayed the audio with spectral filters, face one beneath sodium lights. "It's not a threat," she whispered. "It's an invoice." Invoice for what? Historical cross-threads emerged. Obsidian cores hidden beneath Olmec basalt, unexplained isotopic ratios in Stonehenge sarsens, legends of sky looms woven into Dogon cosmology. Archaeologists had always written them off as cultural coincidence, but Chin saw iterative template markers, numeric recursion embedded in myth. And every recursion centered on an artifact category labeled Echo. 2 centuries earlier, an Antarctic expedition had uncovered a vein of iridescent or emitting tachyon drizzle. The find was classified under Operation Gossamer, parceled to G20 Labs. Within a decade, global energy grids pivoted from fusion prototypes to grav tethers. Grav tethers birthed climate control drones, orbital elevators, even the nanite cure that erased pancreatic cancer. Humanity celebrated itself for ingenious leaps without noticing that each breakthrough traced back to a tiny shard of alien or now sitting in museum vaults, reactor cores, and body implants under 1,000 trade names. Those shards, Chin posited, were fragments of Echo, a distributed technology older than the Ice Age, seeded across continents like breadcrumbs for fledgling species. Humanity had not merely discovered them, it had metabolized them, smelted, soldered, injected them, never guessing they were part of a larger organism awaiting reassembly. The HARPs, then, were recall beacons. Day 3. Grav. Tether grids hiccuped worldwide, dropping skyscraper lifts and blacking out 11 megacities. BTOL ambulances tumbled into avenue chasms before backup rotors spun. Social feeds flooded with hashtag echo claim trending past 1 trillion views. Churches reopened. Hedge funds imploded. Everyone demanded answers, or scapegoats, or both. The UN formed the Echo Custody Council, ECC, and appointed General Alastair Rook, a battle-scarred diplomat in exoskeletal braces, as steward. His first directive: map every gram of alien composite in human possession. Factories balked, patents masked origins. In 2 hours, Rook authorized compulsory disclosure under wartime statutes. Shin headed the scientific wing. She surmised that each HARP correlated with a historical node of heavy echo usage: Siberia's Cold Rim launch pad, where the first space elevator anchor drilled; Atacama's mirror array powering South America; the Sahara's subsolar desal fields; Amazon's geobio data vaults. If HARPs were magnets, they'd soon yank every embedded fragment skyward, tearing implants from flesh, reactors from bedrock. Medical triage forecasts went red within minutes: 500 million casualties if implants ripped free. Rook ordered evacuation of critical wards and deployment of chemical anesthetics to dull gravitic shearing. It felt like prepping field hospitals for an earthquake that would dissolve scalpel steel mid-cut. But the HARPs did nothing: no beams, no gravity wells. They simply hummed louder each hour, synchronizing with that original subhertz resonance until ocean sloshed centimeters beyond tide charts. Day 4. A 10th HARP materialized in low Earth orbit. Telescopes caught its surface. Etched across the lattice ribs was a pictogram of 2 hands releasing a sphere. Chin decoded the accompanying prime factors, expiry countdown. 68 hours remained. In Geneva, ECC drafted 2 options: yield, gather all echo tech at HARP sites, surrender control and accept unknown consequences; or retain, launch a coordinated EMP-plex to scramble echo lattice signatures. Gamble that alien retrieval required intact coherence. Retain promised immediate human dominance but risk of annihilation. Yield promised survival under alien terms. The room split along lines older than nations: those who trusted adaptation and those who trusted firewalls. Outside the glass, protesters chanted for yield, waving placards: "We borrowed, now return." Opposite them, retain hardliners framed themselves with slogans of sovereignty. Fights broke out. Police drones, stripped of grav tether balance, floundered. Under secrecy, a third faction formed: silence. Tech barons whose fortunes lay in echo infrastructure pooled resources to hijack the 10th HARP itself, planning to plug its lattice into a quantum furnace and blow it apart, hoping chain detonation would junk all HARPs simultaneously. They hired private commandos, smuggled a tug craft repurposed from a Mars freight hauler, and launched with cold transponders. Chun detected their climb via spectral leakage: human engines humming minor thirds against alien perfect fifths. By the time she reached Rook, the tug was 1 hour from intercept. She begged interception. Rook hesitated. His war career had thrived on preemption, yet Yield's moral weight pressed. He froze. In that vacuum of indecision, the alien custodian finally spoke through every HARP. Not borrowed voices now, but its own. A chorus that felt like glacier calving and temple bells. The echo is not your slave. It is not your enemy. It is seed. In the mouth of a liar, seed grows poison. In the hand of a friend, seed grows forests. Choose which hands you are. The sky itself shimmered. Every HARP rotated 90 degrees and pointed at the low-orbit tug. A cylinder of turquoise light lanced forth, not vaporizing the craft, but peeling it. Metal, wiring, bone. From reality, unspooling components into strings of code that evaporated like dew. The laser then reversed, knitting a single object, a perfect sphere of the iridescent ore. The HARP tucked the sphere within its lattice. Message clear: sabotage would be repaid atom for atom. Panic mutated into awe. Inside ECC chambers, yield gained momentum. Rook signed Directive Cedar, immediate collection of all echo derivatives for ceremonial return. Industries resisted. Cedar overrode patents with threat of orbital sanction. In labs, scientists wept dismantling their life's work. In hospitals, surgeons trembled extracting implants that had given paraplegics new legs. But many patients volunteered, fearing worse if they clung to stolen gifts. Chen oversaw convoys hauling crates of dismantled grav cores across frost highways to the Siberian HARP. Globes of or glinted under aurora. She wondered if the earth beneath her boots would miss the power once siphoned from stars. At T6 hours, a final crisis loomed. Sahara desal fields, still under retain-aligned junta, refused Cedar. 10 million North African citizens depended on its water grids. Shutdown would trigger famine. The junta dared ECC to invade. Rook's generals readied kinetic rods. Chun begged time. argued that the HARP in Sahara might not require full surrender, only intention. She flew to the desert in a wobbling prop plane, the only tech exempt from echo interference. Touching down amid dust devils, she marched across sand toward the obsidian structure. Soldiers aimed rifles but hesitated. Her presence felt ordained. Chun laid a single shard, once the heart of a desal pump, at the HARP's base and spoke. We return what we never owned. Teach us to earn it. Nothing. Then the HARP's ring slowed, re-angled toward the evacuated desal towers. Instead of dismantling them, beams of violet energy laced the pipes, rewriting molecular seams. Valves spun. Fresh water poured, cleaner than before. Across every site, similar miracles occurred. Implants morphed into organic biocircuitry compatible with human tissue. Reactors rebooted under alien oversight. Output capped, but stable. Skyloom elevators re-threaded with self-healing fiber. Echo had not been repossessed. It had been reinstalled with ethical firmware humanity could neither override nor abuse. The final hour arrived. HARPs ascended, folding into lattice gateways that refracted moonlight into waterfalls of code. The voice delivered closing audit. Debt acknowledged. Seed replanted. Grow wisely. Our archive will listen. Then they were gone. Earth's satnets flickered alive, cleaner channels than ever. Grav tether systems rebooted but required resonance keys shared openly via public mesh. No state could monopolize. Economies reeled, then stabilized around cooperative frameworks because the tech simply refused commands outside collective benefit. Power built on hoarding became obsolete overnight. ECC disbanded, replaced by echo stewardship circles, rotating panels of citizen engineers, ethicists, and yes, children, whose neural adaptability let them perceive low-hertz ethics baked into the ore. General Rook retired to a quiet farm whose irrigation lines hummed alien lullabies. And Dr. Yarachin? She founded the Institute of Shared Memory beneath the Siberian harp, teaching history through the prism of apology. Each dawn she touched the lattice, feeling faint vibrations, harvest season check-ins from an intelligence older than regret. The world had not been spared. It had been audited, amended, enrolled in a syllabus of humility. Somewhere beyond Orion, custodians filed their report. Species 601. B chooses forest over poison. For now, the galaxy turned its gaze elsewhere, leaving humanity to nurture seeds it no longer dared to claim as its own. The decade that followed the HARP's departure became known as the Long Germination, a span of seasons when humanity tried to live up to the alien syllabus it had never asked for. Echo stewardship circles bloomed in every former capital, part parliament, part monastery. Their charters forbade secrecy. Every vote was streamed. Every algorithm open-audited by schoolchildren whose neural graphs still carried faint afterimage of the HARP resonance. Cities brightened under gravity lamps that dimmed automatically if local cooperatives failed to meet transparency quotas. Water grids refused to pump unless distribution spreadsheets were published in plain language. Even prosthetic limbs issued polite error tones if the patient skipped ethics recertification. The new world was messy, miraculous, and fragile. Countless farmers in the Sahel no longer trekked days for desal lines. The Sahara HARP kept their aquifers humming, but they also surrendered harvest data to a planetary mesh that priced grain by soil depletion impact, not commodity futures. Corporate barons had vanished or reskinned themselves as custodial guilds, promising to mentor rather than exploit, yet their veneers grew thin whenever quarterly humility audits cut profit margins. At first, the Institute of Shared Memory, nestled in the permafrost shadow of the Siberian HARP, served as the planet's conscience. Dr. Yarachin and her rotating cadre of caretakers mediated trade route disputes, declassified pre-HARP black budgets, and taught former hedge fund quants how to build open ledgers. They believed, they needed to believe, that the echo lattice would keep tyrannies from sprouting. Then, in year 11 age, after HARPs, a signal slipped between nodes. Tiny, dissonant, easily mistaken for cosmic microwave grit, it repeated only 3 syllables in antique Morse. Iron Seed awake. 2 amateur archivists in Kerala caught it first, but the message propagated through wormholes in the mesh faster than moderators could quarantine. By dawn, the phrase pulsed on half the planet's biotats, skin screens that tracked public health, turning veins beneath wrists a subtle iron oxide hue. Chen knew the words. Iron Seed was custodian shorthand buried deep in the alien primer, describing dormant echo elements that had fused with hot iron meteorites before human discovery. They were inert, supposedly. But if a rogue pulse could animate them, the lattice's safeguards were not airtight. The Echo Stewardship Conclave convened emergency session beneath Iceland's geothermal vault. Delegates arrived in glacier-hauled gliders, the only long-haul craft allowed to traverse stratosphere without lattice clearance. Dr. Chen sat across from General Rook, older, limping but keen, who had been summoned out of contemplative retirement. Hollow strands displayed the outbreak, embryonic iron seed nodes lighting up wherever antique steel met ancient shard, from abandoned Cold War subs to skyscraper rebar. Rook drummed arthritic fingers. Someone is pinging dormant or outside the lattice's ethic filter. Who? Silence. Then a delegate from the Neo-Zulu Collective volunteered a name whispered on dissident channels: Peregrine Syndic, an alliance of ex-retained hardliners, engineers who had never forgiven the yield capitulation. For years they masqueraded as recyclers, buying scrap laden with echo residue. Now they broadcast a firmware fork promising to reunite mankind with unfettered potential. Chen's chest tightened. A fork could overwrite the HARP's restraint algorithms, turning benevolent seed into unsupervised power sources or weapons. The conclave voted. Locate Peregrine, quarantine fork, patch the lattice. But there was no enforcement arm. Armies were defunct, drones co-owned by municipalities. Across the ocean, young echo-sensitive children began complaining of metal dreams, nightmares of gears gnashing bone. Hospitals filled with migraines. Something was co-opting the resonance channel itself, hijacking the youngest receivers. With each hour the rogue upgrade propagated, iron seed nodes pulsed hotter. In Detroit's derelict auto district, a blast furnace reignited spontaneously, pouring molten echo steel into spectral engine blocks. In the Pacific, a decomposing carrier from the old Sino-American standoff rose off the seafloor, plates resealing under crimson latticework, its AI core rebooting with Peregrine firmware. Chen and Rook boarded the Lumen Cairn, now refitted as a rapid response arc, and raced toward the Great Lakes, where sensor trees showed Peregrine's signal hub, an abandoned nanofab megaspire whose fibers once printed Skytram rails. Dr. Chen felt the HARP lattice hum with unease. Its self-repair routines pinged her credentials, asking, forest or poison? She replied with a priority override, still forest. Need time. The megaspire's plaza swarmed with volunteers, citizen engineers, retired custodial guilders, and dozens of children whose tattoos still glowed faint iron. They were drawn by the pulse like moths, clutching scrap shards to surrender, believing Peregrine promised liberation from constant audits. Chen took a loud hailer. The fork hijacks your choices. It won't free you. It will unmoor everything. Many listened. Some hurled hex-deck wrenches, accusing Conclave of stifling humanity's destiny. Night fell. Iron seed nodes inside the spire bloomed into fractal turbines. A cyclone of magnetic dust torqued the skyline, pulling traffic bollards off asphalt. Lumen Cairn locked Murring claws but pitched like a kite on fishing line. Chen accessed the core channel, broadcasting the old HARP phrase, hands that lie grow poison. Peregrine's fork did not flinch. General Rook, steel braces whining, climbed to the upper gantry where a cathedral of or pillars resonated. His veteran eyes found the sabotage route, a pulsar battery carved from echo or cycling recursion keys the HARP mesh refused to decrypt. To sever it manually risked a chain flash that could ignite every dormant shard under the lake. Chen joined him, wind howling through ruptured glass. We need the children, she realized. Their neural synapses, still pliable from the first HARP contact, could outvote Peregrine at resonance threshold. But that meant inviting them into his own moments from cataclysm. By dawn, ice rain lashed the gantry, each drop ringing like chimes on their pillars. The kids arrived, escorted by volunteer teachers and drone medics carrying sedation rigs. They formed a circle, palms on conduits, eyes closed. Chen guided them through the original HARP lullaby, its prime number cadence. Deep inside the mesh, alien and human code collided. Peregrine's fork hammered amplitude. Children's chorus bent phase, weaving harmonic counterspin. Seconds stretched. Or pillars flickered between ember red, poison, and forest green, balanced seed. The sky over Detroit glowed dichroic. Then, as the 27th iteration of the lullaby peaked, the lattice chose. Echo nodes snapped to green. The rogue carrier in the Pacific folded like paper and settled back onto sand, inert. Furnace lights winked out, turbines stilled. The megaspire's cyclone collapsed, snowflakes drifting onto silent streetlights. But victory cost. Feedback surged through conduits, lancing the gantry. Rook flung himself across Chen, braces cracking, shielding her from a shard. He fell, exoskeleton sparking, pulse slow. Medics rushed, but he knew. Echo-charged metal had severed his spine beyond lattice ethics to regenerate, self-sacrifice coded against exploitive resurrection. He gripped Chen's hand. Tell them, forest wins. He died with frost on his eyelashes. In the aftermath, Peregrine servers melted down, their stewards arrested by community tribunals and offered transparent trials broadcast across the mesh. Many wept, confessing they had wanted only to silence the audits, not enslave mankind. The conclave ruled rehabilitation through service, not imprisonment. To honor Rook, the megaspire was rebuilt as the General Grove, iron pillars reshaped into living towers hosting vertical forests irrigated by echo-guided mist. Children who sang the lattice calm became its first curators, schooling visitors on the cost of shortcuts. Echo oversight protocols were rewritten to require a quorum comprised partly of pre-adolescent voices, partly of elders, and partly of AI ghosts derived from HARP heuristics, ensuring no age, no species, no algorithm would again steer alone. Years later, when Chen stood beneath the Siberian harp at twilight, she no longer feared invoices from the stars. Auroras rippled. Faint low-hertz vibrations now felt like purrs. She pressed her palm to the lattice, whispering a greeting carried in a million balanced seats. "We are still learning." The resonance answered with a single, timeless chord, half caution, half approval, and for the moment, that was enough. 50 harvests after the Detroit Concordance, the Earth-Moon Lagrange gardens bloomed with vines trained on whisper-wire trellises, filaments grown from echo resin that hummed faintly to keep aphids away without poisons. From orbit, the latticework resembled concentric halos of emerald and silver, turning the ancient image of a weapons platform into a crown of edible green. Dr. Yara Chin stood on a transparent gantry jutting from Grovering A, watching migrant beekeepers arc past in soft-sail skiffs. Their hives glowed lilac. The insects were hybrids engineered to tolerate micro-G, each wing beat resonating just shy of echo frequency so as not to trigger the lattice audits. Humanity had learned to check each new invention against the memory of kicking cosmic bear traps. She touched the comm stud behind her ear, still the same biotat she'd worn since the HARP days, and accepted a priority link from the Institute of Shared Memory. The hologram unfolded into a face carved by wind. Kai Suresh, envoy from the Centauri outpost on Kindle. He spoke without greeting. "We found another echo seed," he said. "Intact, buried beneath Proxima B's south polar shelf." Chin's stomach fluttered. Echo priests had long theorized that the ancient gardeners sowed more than one test planet, yet no extrasolar artifacts had been recovered. If Centauri hosted its own cache, the curriculum was about to expand, or the galaxy's auditing authority might return sooner than anyone wished. "Protocol Red Fern?" Chin asked. "Already voted," Kai replied. "Steward craft are en route, but there's complication. Terraforming crews cracked the ice to free the seed. Now it's awake and reacting strangely. Strangely, it's not pulling or fragments. It's pushing." The hologram shifted to show orbital footage. Ice tectonics bulged outward like glass roofs in slow-motion explosion. Columns of luminescent vapor spiraled skywards, coalescing into geometric clouds that drifted over colonist habitats then vanished, leaving buildings dusted in iridescent frost. "Radiological?" Chen asked. "Clean." Kai hesitated. But every lattice node within a 100-kilometer radius rekeyed itself, permissions erased. Even children lost handshake access. Seed established its own closed mesh. So the new seed was not requesting a return, it was installing sovereignty. Lessons were escalating. Chen pinged the Earth Steward Circle. Emergency quorum formed before sunset. Representatives from vertical farms, lunar foundries, and the Grove children, now teenagers with silver-veined irises, took their seats in a cedar amphitheater below the Siberian harp. Echo ghosts guided the agenda. Point 1. Could the planet that had passed its first audit intervene on another's test? Point 2. Did intervention risk proving humanity hadn't learned containment humility? Point 3. What if Centauri colonists, descendants of Earth's yield generation, were forced to repeat mistakes and ignite yet another cosmic invoice? Arguments spiraled. The Groveviews were unanimous. Kai's colony deserved assistance. "Forest helps forest," said Mira Rook, granddaughter of the fallen general, her voice carrying the same quake of conviction. But the Elder Circle countered. "We may prune a sapling by giving shade too soon." They referenced archivist parables, species that matured through adversity, not rescue. Chen listened until voices blurred into the same old binary, action versus restraint. She requested private counsel with the HARP AI, stepping alone into the lattice vestibule where frequencies deep as ocean trenches hummed. "We have encountered a sibling seed," she projected. "Its test diverges. Guidance requested." The lattice responded in polytonal bloom. "Every seed chooses soil. The gardener who replants another's plot shall harvest foreign worms." Cryptic, but clear enough. Help and risk importing unforeseen pests, ethical, ecological, or metaphysical. Chin returned to assembly with compromise, a mirror mission. Earth would not hack or override the Centauri seed. Instead, a volunteer envoy would travel with open-source libraries documenting the yield, the harps, and the balance trials. They would offer Centauri colonists narrative, not tools, stories as inoculation against repeating poison. The amphitheater murmured approval. Democracy by resonance. Each heartbeat counted as vote through biometric capture. The mirror mission passed 61%. Mira Rook and a cadre of mixed-age stewards volunteered. Chin, though older, secured a single seat. Her mind still carried the original Echo Grief watermark. Perhaps the new seed would recognize empathy in her neural fingerprint. Starrunner Ibis, a long G-freighter stripped of militarized drive spurs, launched 6 weeks later. Its hull bore no Ocan chain. Icons had evolved into a nil symbol, circle split by sprouting sprig, indicating mutuality rather than debt. The lattice permitted a one-time high-slip corridor, on condition all logs remain transparent. Mid-journey, the IBIS crew broadcast daily podcasts back to Earth, children teaching Centauri slang, elders explaining why secret patents had once been considered normal. Upon arrival, Proxima appeared jaw-dropping green from orbit. Terraforming had succeeded beyond projections. But the South Pole shimmered with those geometric clouds, sapphire polyhedra melting into mist. Docking protocols failed, seed mesh jammed autopilots, forcing a manual descent to the equatorial savanna. Colonists greeted them wary but hopeful. They had water, crops, even low-tech slinkcraft. What they lacked was voice inside ecosystems now silent to human commands. Chin convened a circle under alien stars. Story scrolls unrolled, holograms of the Detroit lullaby played, Groviews reenacted the balance chants. Children of Proxima mirrored rhythms quickly, their iris flecks brightened to faint silver. Mesh nodes flickered at the camp outskirts, responding to resonance, perhaps recognizing humility again. Yet the seed remained closed. 2 nights later, the furnace plains trembled. Columns of vapor carved a path toward their camp. From the fog emerged figures, custodian analogs, but smoother than Earth's broken statues, limbs articulated in living mercury. They spoke neither threat nor greeting. Their forearms unfolded into memory screens projecting Earth's old misuse. Detroit blast furnace, Sahara meltdown, Lagrange garden. Then projections pivoted, scenes of Centauri colonists cutting deep ice trenches, grafting echo rods into habitat fusion hearts. Mira stepped forward, palms open, replaying the Mirror mission summary in compressed pulses, confession, reparations, audits. The custodians angled heads, receiving, appraising. Chin felt the familiar brain quake, interrogation at speed of harmonic thought. But this seed's grief tasted different, less wounded, more cautious, like a parent deciding whether to hand car keys to reckless teens. A single custodian projected 2 paths. Partition, echo tech stays, but mesh remains closed. Centauri becomes autonomous classroom, barred from exporting any derivative until passing unknown metrics. Symbiosis, colonists dismantle core reactors voluntarily, revert to mid-tech ecology for 1 generation, after which lattice may reopen under shared stewardship. Debate raged through dawn. Many colonists preferred partition, keep comforts, accept surveillance. Others, remembering Earth's near extinction, chose symbiosis, sacrifice now for freedom later. IBIS crew refused to decide for them. Instead, Mira proposed a 3rd path. Braided vow colonists reduce eco-reliance in phased tiers, each milestone contingent on transparent council elections, ecosystem rebound data, and cross-colony narrative exchanges with Earth so mutual mistakes stay visible. Custodians considered, light pulses staccato. Hours stretched. Finally, they generated a sigil in air. 3 strands nodded. Approval. The mesh partially reopened, enough to power medical wings and low-yield fabbers, but all potentially weaponizable subsystems locked behind vow milestones. The seed retracted its cloud tendrils, and peace settled. IBIS prepared for return. Colonists gifted them seeds of Proxima's star grain, engineered, without echo, to prove progress wasn't shackled to alien crutches. As engines spooled, Chin gazed at the polar glow, remembering Earth's first invoice. Balance, she realized, wasn't a single exam. It was a franchise of ongoing apprenticeships between youth and memory, flesh and echo. And humanity, for all its stumbles, had become journeyman enough to mentor the next classroom. Years blurred, trips between star gardens common now. Echo seeds across 3 systems thrummed like tuning forks, each with its own syllabus, all sharing the mirror network maintained by Groviews who were no longer children but archivists. One twilight over Luna's library basin, Chin, gray-haired, cane in hand, watched a graduating cohort etch names onto the basalt wall beside General Rook's epitaph. They didn't recite oaths. They hummed a lullaby older than language, each note a promise that memory would stay louder than greed. Echo pillars along the ridge flashed a gentle green. Somewhere in deep interstellar dark a harp ghost likely monitored, filing quiet audit lines. No final grade came, only continued subscription. Chin accepted that perpetual uncertainty. Seed she'd planted in Siberian snow now circled 2 suns, tended by caretakers who would someday seed yet unknown worlds. Forest over poison, she thought. The motto held. She pressed her palm to warm basalt, feeling faint lattice buzz. A child, silver-flecked eyes like dawn, asked, Dr. Chin, will the gardeners ever return? They never truly left, she answered, gaze lifting to a sky quilted with relay lights. They listen with every seed. So we speak with every action. Night fell gentle and honest, carrying hums of balanced machines, laughter of citizens freed from patents, and the rustle of wind gardens erasing the last echoes of poison in favor of growing, ever growing together.